Mindworms there. Probe team is done. Forest agency, thanks to Chop from the forest. Chopping forest production has always been a thing in Civ games. The difference in Alpha Centauri is that you originally planted the forests, whereas it's never really been possible to plant forests in most Civ games, which makes very little sense because you can definitely plant trees on Earth today on a mass scale. I mean, and like tree farms are a thing, but it's not doesn't provide nutrients in the game. Tree farms is just where you plant trees, you chop them down, you replant them. It's not got nothing to do with food. It has everything to do with getting more essentially minerals out of a forest. If tree farms are realistic in this game, they wouldn't give +1 nutrient. They would give +1 mineral to forests. Maybe the hybrid farms give a nutrient because hybrid farming would probably represent stuff closer to agroforestry, where you do have agriculture at the base of the trees. This is a thing that also exists in our world, doing limited amount of like sheep grazing and some nut trees. And yeah, you can plant some stuff in forests, especially if you make the forest a little less dense. So you don't have as many trees, but it's a compromise because you're getting productivity out of crops and the trees. And it's a holistically better use of land. You have more acres of hybrid forest and less of farm. My background is biology, so I know a little bit about this kind of stuff. It's cool stuff and stuff that most people know nothing about, unfortunately. With the raw, brutal exploitation of capitalism, these kind of environmentally sustainable modes of production are not really invested in. They're actually profitable, but the return on investment is lower than the return on investment a lot of other things. So, no one's going to invest money at 2% ROI when they can get 12% ROI on something else. The rate of profit is like 20 to 25% still in the United States. I think it's closer to 20 at this point. It is 20. I remember seeing that. Rate of profit includes existing investments, so low hanging fruit and high hanging fruit, things that are really profitable that have already been invested in the past, and just continue to give their yields. And newer investments, which will always have lower ROI because free markets tend to go and pick the low hanging fruit first. In fact, most economies do, even planned ones. So return on investment will drop. It's, I think, been calculated. Return on investment is usually stock market being any indicator around 7% or 6% in the US, which, though, the thing to keep in mind is that's risk average return. So individual investments can pay back much better, but they could also go bust and provide nothing. So that also plays. It could be that if the something succeeds, it provides a 14% return, but it's only got a 15% chance of succeeding, whereas rate of profit is always investments that already succeeded. So it's always going to be a higher number. But yeah, they're both falling over time, and that will be the doom of capitalism, because the lower the rate of profit and the return on investments get, the more the economic inequality of capitalism, the billionaires owning everything, will get worse. And we're already seeing how that's growing catastrophically. Yeah, by the way, you often see Marxists talking about this. The declining rate of profit will kill capitalism, but they never explain why. It doesn't, that's non sequitur almost. Yes, there's a declining rate of profit and you expect capitalism to fail. Why? Why are those two things connected? The answer is that it leads to inequality growing more quickly. When there aren't opportunities for people to claw their way into the high bourgeoisie, that's the Marxist term for, people often call it the bourgeoisie, but Marx actually called it the true bourgeoisie or the high bourgeoisie in his more academic writings. That is the distinguished from the petty bourgeois. The high bourgeoisie, though, being the billionaire class, basically, the people who live almost entirely off of investments. So really, it's billionaires and like people with $100 million, $50 million or more. It's not people with 1 or 2 million even. It's substantially wealthier than that. People, but it becomes harder for people just a little bit, less rich people with 1 million or 2 to a name to claw their way into the high bourgeoisie. The worse return on investments get, because then anything they can invest into, whether a new business or the stock market, to make themselves richer, it's going to more slowly accumulate wealth to them. And, it becomes harder, almost impossible in a single lifetime. And then there's issues with inheritance. Maybe the heirs are less ambitious, or you have multiple heirs and money gets divided up. So you don't see people enter the bourgeois anymore. And the bourgeois, the high bourgeois, the billionaires, they eat each other, so to speak. They buy each other's businesses, push each other out of that class, so it gets smaller and smaller. And as these people become individually more powerful, they buy politicians more, which is again happening. Now the number of billionaires is growing around the world, and the U.S. still hasn't reached the point where it's declining, but it is increasing more slowly, percentage-wise, than in the past, even though it's in absolute terms. And eventually, the number of billionaires will level off and start to decrease, not because the rich don't have more, but because fewer and fewer billionaires are taking up all the assets of all their peers. And that's eventually a story of capitalism. That could take a couple 100 years easily. It's a very slow process. The average Marxist calculations on how quickly this would destroy capitalism, as to, opposed to people replacing it through elections or revolutions, whether peaceful or violent or whatever. If you just wait for capitalism to become so bad it can't possibly sustain itself, that could take 200, 300 years. At which point the climate will be doomed. We'll have destroyed ourselves. I mean, here in Alpha Centauri, climate damage is something you can kind of... Oh shit, no, I was gonna shun that there. Shoot. Well, this can shop for the colony pod for forest agency. Get it done a lot faster. And start setting up a farm mine for the new base. I suppose that's actually a good use of the former turn, once I decided I was going to do another base here. New slow probe team. I guess it will nude up on the transport. Let's send this here where it's safer. I guess I should say it would take 200 or 300 years for capitalism to come utterly impossible for it to continue perpetuating itself. That doesn't mean it, it's gradually becomes less stable up at that point, and we're already seeing that reduction in stability. And since its hold'em power has actually been a lot more tenuous than people think, it could be the trigger for people to realize it's a system that's going to doom us with climate change and stuff. That's something that's destabilizing it faster than otherwise. And might as well get rid of it sooner before it gets rid of all of us. Got my first couple probe teams there. You know what? I'll slow walk this so I don't have to guard it until where Mindworms could theoretically attack. Yeah. Climate in Chiron here, though, climate change, I'm sorry, I'm being a little dissipate with how I'm talking about the stuff because I'm tired. My long COVID makes it hard to focus. But I was a brilliant, brilliant person before long COVID. I mean, I had I had a professor who's also an advisor who I stayed under right before I got long COVID, and he said I was one of the most brilliant students he'd ever had. He uses words. I actually like wrote it down, recorded it because otherwise, I'm sure people would have said, "Oh, that never happened" or something. I don't know. I have some shitty people in my life, but and this guy was no joke. This was at a medical school, at a special master's at a medical school. I was very smart, and my intelligence wasn't just in the sciences. I mean, you could be good at science and terrible with the humanities. You shouldn't listen to someone just because they're good at, physicists may not know anything about politics, kind of thing. Um, but I'd always had a wide-ranging intelligence that applied to many different fields, which is unusual, a true Renaissance man kind of thing. So not all fields. There are weaknesses. Like I was always really bad at music, so don't ever take my advice on anything musical. I suck at it. Things I was always good at were history and politics, so much so I almost studied that instead of biology. I showed some aptitude for philosophy, for sure. It's my philosophy instructor in college, which I didn't work as hard in that class as I could have and only got an A minus, but he definitely saw that I had some talent. And physics, biology, physics, philosophy, and history / politics, which are kind of one thing. That's 4 fields. Well, and mathematics, that was the other thing. So 5, that's 5 things. Most people are not really good at 5 things, not the level I was. But it's not everything. Most other things actually kind of, wasn't great at. Music, sports. Can't have it all. Or very, very few people can anyways. Boom. But yeah, sorry. Why I being quite disparate about things? But why was I talking about in Chiron? Fungal pops represent eco damage, and you just suffer a certain number as long as they don't occur too close together. You won't get global warming and sea level rise, and you can deploy solar sage to try and counteract sea level rise. So I think sea level rise continues indefinitely, so you have to endlessly do solar shades to stop it. So it's not exactly sustainable. I just want to shroud the whole planet in darkness all the time. The ecology model in this game doesn't make a ton of sense. At some point, you would reach an equilibrium, no matter how bad the drive towards sea level rise was. All right. Should probably go here and raise the elevation. Shouldn't make this elevation over 1,000, I don't think. And I'd like to get this mineral resource above sea level. Maybe I'll raise it from the east. Be certain. Yeah. Before I go creating more land, I should make more use of what I've got. Good old forest will help here. Let's see. I got a bunch of flat tiles. I could do some forests, even some condensers that I hope will get forested. Maybe Maybe one here could support a farm mine to the south. And eventually I might get a forest farm. Probably won't bother anywhere it doesn't at least support one neighboring tile. But here, because some of this is arid. Yeah, so even if I was just going to do a moist farm solar panel, it's probably condenser west of the base. But forests, a couple other tiles. Shift F, that's forest, right? Yep, let's earmark that now. Force also costs 2 movement to move through and provide defense bonuses, so make it a little hard for Spartan rovers to bypass the base and hit this mine or this farm. The condenser here once they extend the force further this way. Reduce their movement options. In case I end up getting pushed back to board agency when the war breaks out. It's unlikely. The forests are still a good use of land. They reduce environmental damage a little. Tiny bit. Let's see. A borehole, yeah, essentially adds one, reduces the number of clean minerals at a base by, they can be actual minerals, by 1. Takes 8 force to offset a single borehole. So, I don't know if rounds up or down. So, set this number aside. Divide, reduce. I don't know. Depending on how the rounding works with the terraforming part, it's possible if I had just more than 2 forests, just a few forests, I might increase the mineral threshold 1. Anyways, space isn't actually close to doing eco damage yet. Not until I add another borehole, maybe. No, not even then. I mean, where I'm getting eco damage here, I have 14 minerals, a borehole, and a lot of mines and such. That's only 14 though. Okay, so maybe the farm condenser be already 13 minerals. Another farm. Yeah, I guess border agency could actually suffer eco damage if I keep developing it. So forest to help a tiny bit with that, on top of eventually being good tile to work for minerals. Although that will more than outweigh the eco benefits if I actually chop the trees like that. I don't mean that chop like the remove forest, but get lumber from them, because the lumber industry does eco damage, is I think the idea of how that's really working. Pair that rover. This one should also get repaired, be hardened, because it hadn't visited a monolith before. Repair that. There's actually a tiny chance of monolith disappearing each time you visit it, so it's not an unlimited resource. People treat it like it is. It's like 1 in 32 odds or something. So more than less than 4% more than 3. Just a little over 3% odds. It's not nothing. I think they did that math right. Long COVID brain is very much difficult to correctly do math sometimes. Let's see. First probe team's forward. This one should probably go for parade ground. These other two bases. Don't want to try and go through the fungus to bunker 118. If I hit a Mindworm, I won't have other units that can protect it. I guess I try going over the open terrain to force superiority. Hope the Spartans can't see it, and if they can, they don't like send a rover out to the tile, kicking the probe teams back. Probably the best place to start probe teams is on Monolith, because they'll typically have more than one unit there because they're repairs. Indeed, I already have 2. Because again, if you lose your last military unit in a tile, I think normally the probe teams die. Even though they can defend against Mindworms themselves, if they're attacked on their own, although they usually lose unless I give them armor. Transport and stuff. Inconsistent rules about probe team combat, basically. It's kind of an issue. Let's get this back to the near side of the fungus. How many undamaged rivers can reach there? Here we go. Let's get out of the fungus first. Zone of control nonsense. I know how to work around that, though. Boom. You can always enter a tile with a friendly. Two odds. Didn't level up, unfortunately, but victory. Should make the damage thing a primary defender though, because I wouldn't want to lose the veteran one. Even if the discipline one's more likely to die by far. Save. Something I do want to try. Forget this works. Darn, it moved. I was going to see if... Try this with another rover. Right, it failed. That's what I was actually hoping for. Now if I skip turn, does it... I can't visit the... It's not like a artifact where you can do this. I think it's skip turn. No? Forget how I make an artifact trigger on a base even when... Maybe I don't get a message on bases that don't nodes. Oh well. Let's see, I actually don't want this to move into the fungus, so darn it, succeed even with... Oh well. Two failed moves. You know what? No. Oh, wait. That's fine. It's only a hardened unit. Doesn't need to be designated defender. Do that. Now it can move along out of the fungus from there. There we go. More protection. Keep succeeding on the moves instead of finding Mindworms. Oh, well. wanted to find out what happened. It moved into Spartan territory. Have it ants turn there? If I got a warning or something, almost certainly not, but it doesn't hurt to test. Any assumption. Right. Well, it can hurt to test an assumption, but it's usually a good idea. Usually. Double defend this probe team. That can't disengage. Why did I move the transfer here? Wouldn't have helped to move something former into the base quickly, maybe? I don't know. Oh, no, wait, it helped move. Oh, it did. Weird. Guess go there to help with the probe team later. I don't remember. Maybe it did help with this condenser. Did this come from the sensor thing? Whatever. Boom. Because here it could have gone back to Hydrology Council. It would have actually been equidistant compared to Alluvial Council to heal it. Okay, worms there, but whatever. Not that there was one time a worm crawled out into one of those tiles, but it's quite rare, it seems. They Bastille. Farmers are about to be finished here. Borehole is the next thing to work. I suppose this is fine where it is. Former can move north. He can move there next turn. Oh, this is going to get you in. The Mindworm catches up to it, as it likely will. Oh well. Got other rovers in the area. Somebody's got to defend this base. Spartan boars reached here. Should stay outside them. And the deep was over there, I think. Let's pull away from that area, regardless. Mineral resources. I think that tile just filled in. I believe we just could even work it with a base. Did that fill in, or they already know about it? Maybe they already knew. Either way. So I'm gonna work this tile too with a base on the coast. I suppose the best heal this up. Guess he's the only units left to move. Alrighty then. Move these and end this bloody turn. I should seriously consider cutting this video in half for you folks. So if the last one didn't have anything I said in it, wow. This will probably be the end of this one at least.
conscious life forms.
Attack. Achieved commando status. Nice. If I failed, the Uni rover could fill in. Commando rovers. Pretty valuable. Man, I'm tempted to defend that with the rover, but Uni rover is mineral free. So, yeah.
Turn complete.
For many turns, I'd have more than enough minerals saved in support with the Uni rover versus some at the cost support to produce multiple replacement rovers, probably. I say that, but no. Wait. I need some units to deter. Maybe not. Cost 20. So I could disband either of these rovers for 10 minerals in a base, which could be reinvested and eventually have clean ones. Yeah, heck with it.
Turn complete.
I'll defend the commando unit because it's got higher odds of success. The unit rover should be picked as defender automatically. Well, I'm not sure. 100% sure. I'll take no chances. Yeah, so Uni-rovers are like clean units, but eventually I'll have proper clean reactor units once I get the tech. Defending that rover gives much better odds than both making it back alive, because the commando one's so damaged. And I don't know, the commando one could perform quite well against worms and stuff. I will have to repair this a couple turns, but it's fine. I got enough stuff to keep this alive. The rover would just hang out here for until that's more repaired up some. Maybe they'll repair somewhere it's not directly adjacent to fungus. Like here, partway back too. Or just go to the coast. I don't know what to think about it. Anyways, I wish you folks the best, dear viewers. I hope you enjoyed the video. I'm sorry I don't play the quickest sometimes. On COVID, it's tough to always think as quickly, as clearly as I would like. I know it can be rough on you guys too, just hearing it. So think about what it's like to live with, I guess. What? Oh. No, there's a retooling penalty. I'm not gonna retool. Good thing it warned me. Forgot about that.
Request confirmation.
Yeah, if I were to spend for 11, it thinks it's 56. I think I have to spend like 4 energy or 5, and then I wait a turn. They could actually hurry this slow probe team. Got a good amount of energy, but do I really need another probe team so bad? Maybe not. Maybe not. It's 19 nutrients to... Yeah, and that mine is done. I'll just swap. Um... Anyways, what was I thinking? Lost my train of thought. But yeah, it sucks for me to deal with that. It sucks for you guys too. I know. I mean, I'm doing this channel to survive, and I probably wouldn't be doing if I wasn't disabled with long COVID. But still, pressure politicians invest in a cure for long COVID, no matter what country in the world you live in. There's something your government could probably be doing to contribute to effort. Even very poor countries could be trying to do descriptive study here and there to provide data on what the disease actually looks like, because those are dirt cheap to perform. And big countries in the U.S. could be doing more than just descriptive studies, which is pretty much all that's being done. And I mean, there's like one or two things for treatments, and they're mostly reusing existing drugs and actually putting the research in developing new medications, treatments, which of course part of the reason the U.S. is investing is, oh, private industry will do it. If private industry does it, they'll charge like $3 million for a cure, and it won't be covered by any Medicaid, which is the only thing that people are disabled are going to be able to have. And so people will be paying out of pocket, going bankrupt the rest of their life, becoming debt slaves to, not bankrupt, but being poor, becoming debt slaves to the companies that made the cure, rather than, taking the attitude that we're all in this together and we shouldn't be offering people cure for a disability that's, if they get, millions of dollars in debt or something to get it, is almost worse than being disabled, except the government will probably force people to do this, like by cutting off disability, saying, oh, now there's a cure, even though we're not going to pay for it. I don't know. I'm very cynical about the system for a reason. Um, Anyways, even that I suppose would be better than there would be no cure, but governments really should be investing in the research. So speak up. Anyways, I wish you all the best. Take care of each other. Be kind to yourselves. May you always find guiding star leading home. Adieu, and best of luck.